Alright, I've seen a lot of ridiculous stuff online this week, but I think this meme takes the cake. Liberalism and democracies versus terrorism and tyranny. And I swear to God, you guys, I swear to you, it's a meme that says the US are the defenders and Iraq are the aggressors. That's right, forget that the US bombed Iraq to a pre-industrial state in the 90s and then put them under sanctions which starved 500,000 children to death. Before invading Iraq in 2003, toppling their government and allowing extremist terrorist groups to flood into the country, including ISIS, which was able to establish a base of support in Iraq for the first time. Forget all that, Iraq are the aggressors, even though they've never attacked the United States before. And Iran, who has also never attacked the United States, even though we keep them under strict economic sanctions and we killed their general with a drone strike a few years ago. And you have China and India. I guess China forced India into BRICS. They're forcing economic cooperation on them. How could they? These are very aggressive forms of trade. Next we have Ukraine and Russia, which might make a little more sense to people. But the real aggressor here should be NATO. Because it was NATO and the US who helped topple Ukraine's government in 2014 and who continually built up NATO military presence in Ukraine after Russia had repeatedly said that's a red line. NATO also promised Russia in the 90s that they wouldn't continue expanding towards Russia's borders, and yet they did and did and did and did until Russia snapped and invaded Ukraine. But yeah, I guess if you ignore all of the historical context and facts, you can just say Russia's the aggressor and Ukraine's the defender. I know the person who posted this is a Zionist, and Zionists usually aren't great with facts and historical context. Next up, we have Israel, and then Hamas and Hezbollah. Ha! Ha! Ha 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 ha! Hamas wouldn't even exist if Israel wasn't the aggressor in Palestine. Hamas is a Muslim nationalist Palestinian resistance organization that formed in response to Israeli colonization. It is quite literally the opposite situation here, and you could say similar things about Hezbollah. Then we got South Korea and the DPRK, North Korea. And I just like to call South Korea occupied Korea, because that's basically what it is. Prior to the 1950s, the Korean peninsula had always been considered one country, Korea. But after their long and brutal anti-colonial struggle against the Japanese, in which Korea gained their freedom, the US launched the Korean War to try and seize the peninsula back as a colony for themselves. This is when they backed a fascist dictator named Syngman Rhee in South Korea, who committed some of the worst atrocities and massacres in human history. Nobody wanted to fight for Syngman Rhee and the US-backed forces, so it looked like the North and the communists were going to win the war, and that's when the US began their bombing campaign, killing 20% of the DPRK's population and leveling every single building over 2 stories tall. American pilots at this time were complaining that there were no more targets for them to bomb because they had leveled the entire country. At this point, the US used the UN as a tool to divide Korea in half, and we had South Korea and North Korea created for the first time. And for the first years of South Korea's existence, they would be propped up by US military presence and fascist dictators handed to them by the US. But yeah, why make an effort to understand the historical context of these issues when we could just put them in a graph and call all the countries that we like democracies and all the countries we don't like tyrannical dictatorships? It's like geopolitics for a kindergartner, drunk on American exceptionalism.